Alan Miller's here, co-founder of the Together Declaration. Alan, good to talk to you. Very good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Lots to talk about this morning. The digital ID business has been ratcheted up again. New inquiry is looking into the potential of new forms of digital ID. But this other story this morning, which I found absolutely staggering, which I didn't know about until now, this fraud bill going through the House of Lords, which is enabling very possibly members of the civil service, HMRC in particular, to take money out of your bank account without you even knowing if they think you might owe it to them.
It's remarkable, Mike, this story. We've seen it already with the Department of Work and Pensions and around the questions of benefits. And now we see it extended, being proposed that it's going to be extended with civil servants who, again, are not democratically accountable. We've seen big questions around the civil service doing things regardless of what the elected government says. And we've seen things with an elected government doing all sorts of things already. We've seen the problems with things like the vaccination passports that tried to be imposed and people were very against it. We should remember in this discussion, which has gone on for a long time, Winston Churchill was the first person to say we're not going to have national identity cards. And the British public generally has been really opposed to it for a long time. Right. And now what we're seeing, though, is arguments for convenience and ease and trying to appeal to people who have obviously got very significant concerns, rightly so, about border control, about fraud, and in each area, or about crime, in each area, it's presented in a way that can be really appealing to demographics. So if you're concerned about borders and immigration, then we'll have this. We'll have these identity cards. We'll have in our government digital wallet. Now, the government digital wallet is already being implemented. It's being implemented currently to have all sorts of digital data in there. And within all of this, the idea is that you'll just have this seamless convenience and ease. But aside from things just like data breaches, and there's huge concerns about privacy, tracking, cash, surveillance. We know that the questions around central bank digital currency that are constantly being promoted, the EU's got one coming, 27 other nations have. The concerns around, so basically what we're saying together is that we're saying that we need to have a digital bill of rights. We need to have a situation where we have protections, ring fencing, areas of privacy, to not have constant surveillance of citizens, to not have citizens, banks becoming spying attributes for civil servants or the government, to make sure that we have accountability and transparency. In the same way, if people wanted to do a wiretap, a phone tapping, or to read your mail, they'd have to get a proper warrant and ensure that. And not to just have constant surveillance, facial recognition everywhere, and all alongside a discussion around biometrics, which very quickly can get into a situation, as we've seen, where on the one hand you have data being collected, and on the other hand you have very clear goals. You say, well, you're not allowed to drive in these areas, these are low traffic neighborhoods, and we're going to have these fines. And actually, if you don't recycle your rubbish correctly, not only will you be fined, but we might just take you off right now, take you down a little bit with your carbon footprints. Not good. We might take you off the grid. The whole fears around a social credit system, about immediate punitive actions. People might think that's slightly alarmist. We've already seen in the last few years how the state can do all sorts of things we've never seen before. And we're saying it's time to really make sure. So there is an opportunity to write to the Home Affairs Committee, who are now having another consultation. It's important, Mike, to know that in 2023, when there was a consultation, we had a lot of people respond. They do these polls where they say, would you like a really convenient thing to go into a pub? And people say yes. They say, oh, look, everyone wants digital ID, because they ask it in a certain question. But we actually had a consultation response. The Home Office recognised it. They know that people have got big concerns. So we're saying to people to actually write to our MPs. We'll respond to this Home Affairs Committee consultation and keep making our voices heard. We're going to have much more of this campaign coming through now. But it's really, really important. I know people can get a little weary, but for the public to make their concerns clear with their MP, And we're
Yeah.
seeing now, even with Keir Starmer, they do have an impact when people.
Oh
are
yeah,
furious
definitely. I mean,
respond.
look at what Starmer has U-turned on. He's U-turned on it because he's realised that the people are against it, and he's realised that he needs to find. He can't, you can't just be unpopular for the rest of his time. If he wants to be a success, he needs to do what we want him to do. I mean, I had an experience, Alan. I don't know if you listened to it a while ago, where the Dartford Crossing, which is of course now a cashless zone, when you pay to go over it, there's a variety of ways of doing it. I had put some money in so that it was there in case I forgot to pay every time I went over it, right? I got a fine a couple of weeks ago because they said, and I rang them up, I said, I thought I had money in the system. And they went, oh, your money's expired. And I went, sorry? What do you mean? And they said, if it's been there for more than a year, they can't apply it to the crossing toll. And I was like, well, where's my money? And they went, well, you'll have to ring up customer services to get it back. And I'm going, so I've actually given you, it's only about 10 or 15 quid. But, this is, and somebody pointed out at that point, they said, this is the problem with just having everything in digital form. If you still had a toll booth there and you could actually physically give the guy £2.50, you wouldn't have any of these problems.
Well, that's true. And also, though, we are very concerned about more and more toll booths, even in our streets all around the country, not just with one particular tunnel, but with the idea that everything's becoming more about being surveyed and paying. So now we're seeing that the London Assembly are discussing bigger vehicles to be charged more.
Yeah.
And we're also seeing pay per mile being revisited, which was once presented as some kind of mad bonkers conspiracy. We're seeing that the idea of tracking cars everywhere, tracking people, constant surveillance, constant nudges, where the state increasingly has control in lives. But at the same time, where it does not seem able to implement things around infrastructure and make big projects work, we've got massive issues, Mike, with reservoirs not being built, with water cleanliness, with the energy, as we know, and also and so the whole idea that the state now encroaches ever more in these areas, we need to enforce some protections. We need to get very clear about the areas that we think should not be under scrutiny. Privacy needs to be maintained and the public arena separated. And it's really about autonomy and freedom to kind of go on the pursuit of our lives without constantly being under surveillance
and fined every time you turn around. Listen, Alan, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Appreciate it. Alan Miller, co-founder of the Together Declaration, very concerned about this bill going through about digital ID as data.